And we are live. Great. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Sobie Panem, Slyše Panem Live, the first of its kind in English. And let me welcome great guests, Jaka Duncan. Hello.
Hi, Stefan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so very much for coming. I'm kind of nervous today, actually, because this will be a very special interview. Because I know part of your story. I've known you for 3 years. I've met Jaka on the Journey Intensive seminar in Prague 3 years ago,
Yes.
hosted by Brandon Bays, and I've been watching her ever since on Facebook. And what's been happening there? It's kind of wonderful. It's amazing because there was so many times when I actually envied you, your lifestyle, on what you've been going through, despite the fact that you were actually the one who was sick with, if I can say it this way, you had cancer, and that's what this interview will be all about your journey to heal yourself, to heal yourself by cancer, which is a very unique statement, actually, to say I was healed by cancer. And that's
healed by cancer, yes.
That's the title of your book as well. Just to quickly introduce you, Jaka is the author of the book she just shown, Healed by Cancer. She is a motivational speaker. She is doing some kind of coaching now. You are just the happiest person I've seen in my life. And you've done many things, and we will definitely get to that. So thank you. Thanks very much for coming. And I would like to hear everything about your story, because I've read the book. I've read half of your book, so there's so much I don't know yet. And I'm really curious to find out, and it will happen during this interview. So, could you give me some background on what's been happening? You had a cancer in 2007 for the first time, then it came back to you. And before you actually start, there's one more thing I would like to add. What really shocked me, that when I was reading through your book, I always thought that if cancer would happen to me or somebody close to me, I would definitely be able to find the cure, to get over it, to heal myself. But actually, while reading through your book, I've seen that you've actually tried everything I would have tried in my place, and I was like, how come she's not healed by now? How come this hasn't worked? And it surprised me so much, And then I'm really curious, what was the thing which actually healed you, and how much your life changed on your journey. So could you tell me? Tell me?
Definitely. So, okay, well, in 2007, like you mentioned, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was 38 years old. My mom had cancer at the age of 37. And so everyone said, it's genetics. There's nothing you could have done to avoid it. And which that was very disempowering. I felt kind of doomed. This is my life. It's cancer. And not only did my mom pass away from cancer, both my grandmothers also did. And in 2007, I followed Western protocol, and I had surgery. I did chemotherapy. I did radiation. I went on hormone therapy. And in 2016, in December, I got the news that the cancer was back, and it was more aggressive, and it was in the same place as it had been almost 10 years prior. But in 2016, I had done...
Sorry,
go ahead.
And it was 3 times bigger than in
It was 3 times larger, yes, yes. But the thing is that the almost 10 years between 2007 and 2016, I had done a lot of inner work, and I had read a lot of self-help books. I had not come across the journey yet, but I was definitely on the path already, and starting to trust my intuition and realizing that Western medicine was not the answer for me. And so I chose not to have surgery and not to have chemotherapy again. And I remember I actually went into a cabin. I wrote about that. I went into a cabin in the woods by a lake in the middle of winter here in Canada, freezing cold, and removed myself from society so that I could really figure out what it was that I was going to do. And then, like you said, I tried everything under the sun and nothing seemed to be working. And you and I met in Prague in, I think it was around this time of year, 3 years ago.
2017, yes.
Yes, because my girlfriend gave me the book, The Journey by Brandon Bays, and I said, I need to meet her. And my husband's like, okay, off you go. She doesn't come to North America. You're off to Prague, you go. And by the way, you live in a beautiful, beautiful country. I loved it. I took a few extra days to tour around. Wow. And we had spectacular weather too, so that helped. And yeah, that was pivotal. It really was pivotal to be able to learn Brandon's method, because it started to really put me on the path of cellular memory. And although it took another, year and a half for me to heal my body, it definitely was the start of it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that was actually my question. I was very curious about what part of your healing actually played the journey of the Brandon Bays, because from the book, I understood that it wasn't the thing which actually healed you. It wasn't the most important thing, but has it actually played any significant role on your healing journey?
It definitely did. It definitely did. I ended up taking a lot of journey courses. So from the Journey Intensive in Prague, I then, about a year later, started taking all of the other courses as well. So I was in the Netherlands, I was in England, I was in Bali, I was in India, and I was very lucky to be able to take all these journey courses. And we were also traveling around the world because I didn't know if I was going to be able to heal cancer. And my mother was never able to retire. And it was our dream. My husband and I had a dream of traveling the world, and we decided not to let cancer stop us from living our dreams. And so we started traveling. We spent 15 months traveling around Mexico, Europe, and Asia. And I incorporated the journey events, the retreats, into my traveling.
Okay.
And so, yes, I got a taste as to how important it was and how to go deep and allow yourself to feel the feelings and, the stuffed down feelings, and be okay with them. And of course, in the journey method, you're guided by your partner. But because I was traveling around the world, I didn't, for one, financially expensive to hire, to do it online. And the other thing was internet wasn't always great. So I kind of created my own surrendering meditation where I didn't need a partner. And on top of that, so I healed my body through surrendering. And I was told over and over and over again, surrender, surrender, surrender. And I didn't know what surrendering meant. And you get it when you get it. And so when I was told in October of 2018, the cancer has spread, you now have stage 4 cancer. The tumor was not just in my breast at this point. There was also a tumor in my cervix and in my uterus. And that news brought me to my knees. And I remember in meditation, and I had been an avid meditator for quite a while. In meditation, I finally said, I don't know what to do anymore. Show me. And it was in that moment that I realized what surrendering was. And I feel that the journey prepared me for this. So I was finally able to get it. And I realized that I had been standing in my own way of my own healing, and all of these limiting beliefs that I had in regards to I'm not smart enough, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not this, that, or the other. There were so many limiting beliefs that I had at a subconscious level. And this fear of rejection kept coming up over and over and over again. And through journey processes, my father kept coming up, and I had lots of father issues.
Great.
Yes. So many of our programming happens in our childhood. And when you are raised by a father who, he didn't love me unconditionally. He loved me conditionally. As long as I was doing what he wanted me to do, he showed love. So what that did was I became a puppet, essentially, and he was the puppeteer. And so I was the people pleaser, and I would do whatever it took so that he would love me. And this wasn't just with my father. This became a pattern in my behavior. And so I was doing it with other people in my life as well. And I haven't lived at home since I was 18 years old. So it's been more than 30 years. And I was still continuing this same people-pleasing behavior and this fear of rejection that I had from childhood on in regards to my father. Also in regards to being an immigrant. I was an immigrant at the age of 13 and immigrated from the Netherlands to Canada. And I didn't fit in. You know, here I was plunked into a different country with a different language, and I felt like a big outsider, and I felt rejected. And so that added to it as well. And so then my whole life, my behavior in so many different areas of my life was all about not feeling worthy, and therefore seeking that worthiness outside of myself. And because I had this fear of rejection, I would bend over backwards to do whatever it took so that people would not reject me. And as I was surrendering and surrendering and surrendering, I realized that the problem wasn't other people rejecting me. The problem really was that I was rejecting me. I wasn't loving me. I wasn't embracing me. And this fear vibration is a very low vibration, as you know, right? The vibration of fear and anger and jealousy and despair and shame are all very low, low, low vibrations. And I realized too that as long as my body was subconsciously vibrating at that low level, there was no healing able to happen. No matter what I did, all the holistic things that I did, from eating a really healthy diet to getting vitamin C through IV to hopefully heal my body of cancer, to I was in the sauna every day, and I was on a vibration machine every day, and I was doing enemas and colonics. I was doing everything you can imagine to try and heal my body, and nothing was working because my body was vibrating at the level of fear, which is a survival mode. And when you are living in survival, your body is essentially only worried about either running really fast from whatever the threat is, or fighting. And so all the energy is in the arms and the legs, so you can do just that. And what's compromised is our immune system and our cardiovascular system and all the different systems, right? A hormonal system and digestion and absorption. So what happened was I was doing all this good stuff, but the filter of my body was messed up. And the vibration was messed up. And so nothing really changed in my body.
So do I understand that whatever you try to do on a conscious level was then overwritten by your subconscious, basically, which was this self-limiting beliefs about basically the love you lacked from yourself, not from anybody else, but from yourself. That, there was something which was missing there. That's the tricky thing, it's the subconscious, it's not on a conscious level, because on the conscious one, you've done everything you've done. You've sold your house, you've traveled the world, you've just done so many things. But then in the background, there was still running this program of what was actually causing the disease. Do you understand me well? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And I really am so grateful for Brandon and the journey work, because that was my first inclination that who I was at a surface level was not who I was at a subconscious level. And, because really, like I said earlier, the journey work is all about getting to the cellular memory and all of the, where the limiting beliefs stemmed from. So I'm very, very grateful for Brandon. And and yet, as I was doing the journey work, there was still resistance, and I was still not able to surrender. And that surrendering didn't fully happen until I hit rock bottom. And it was like the dark night of the soul, so to speak, where I was told the cancer has spread and it's now stage 4. And I thought, oh my, what else do I need to do? I don't know what else to do anymore. And that's when I realized it's not about doing. It's about my state of being. And my state of being was diseased. It was filled with fear. And that's when my healing journey really, really just started happening in October of 2018. And then it was it was about 6 weeks later. And every single day, yeah.
And what was the point which actually turned you into the healing? What happened?
The actual healing I didn't know this at the time, but now that I look back, that moment where I realized it's about my state of being, it's not about doing, because the doing was all fear-based doing. I had so much fear about dying from cancer. I had so much fear about disappointing other people. So it was October 2018 that I finally started the real healing journey. And 6 weeks later, I'm in India at a journey retreat, and I was there for almost 2 weeks. And I remember I was not in a journey set process. I was just walking outside, doing my thing. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I felt this incredible gentleness for myself, this tenderness that you would feel for a brand new baby. And I felt that for myself. And it just took my breath away. It was so beautiful. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I don't know if my body was 100% healed at that point, because I didn't get tested. I ended up getting tested in February, and that's when I was told there is no active cancer in your body. But it may very well have been that at that point, there was a shift. There was a shift where I finally had cleared away enough of my limiting beliefs, and I had let go of enough of the fear that was blocking me from my authentic self, from my essence, that I had unblocked it, and I had reconnected with me. And that feeling of love and tenderness and gentleness was magnificent. Mm-hmm. And that was really the first moment that I thought, wow, this is amazing. It was also the moment where I thought, if I don't heal my body from cancer, it's okay, because I feel so amazing. It was bliss. It was complete, total bliss. I was in ecstasy. And that's the irony, is when I let go of the need to heal my body, right? Because that need often has desperation attached. And desperation is a really low vibration. So when you're desperate, you're not healing. Your vibration is too low. Your inner healer cannot heal you because your desperation level is too low of a vibration. And so when I got to that point and I had surrendered my desperate need to heal my body, and I had let that go. And so I was at a point of, it's okay. It's okay if I'm never healthy. It's okay if I die from cancer. I'm going to be okay. And so that's the irony. When I ended up being okay with it, that's when the healing started. Yeah.
So I actually thought, I haven't read the book, the whole book yet. I'm in the half at this moment. So does it mean that the next examination you had after this retreat, you found out that you are cancer free?
Yes. So we continue to travel. We continue to travel in Asia. and we were in Thailand, and we were told by a fellow Canadian, actually, in Thailand, you should go to the Dao Garden in Chiang Mai in northern Thailand, because it is an excellent clinic. There are lots of different doctors from Europe, from North America, and from Asia that work there, and they provide all kinds of testing. And so we said, okay, we'll go and check it out. I didn't really want to get tested because I was like, it's okay. I'm just going to keep doing this, surrendering. It's okay. I don't need to know. But my husband was like, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's find out. So we went, and the doctor, they did all these tests. And when I remember sitting in the doctor's office, and he said to me, you have no active cancer. And as he said this, the tears started rolling down my face. But I didn't believe him at first. And I said, and he had an accent. And so I thought, did I misunderstand him? And I remember saying to him, okay, just to get this straight, I said, there's no cancer in my breast. No. Okay. I said, there's no cancer in my uterus. No. There's no cancer in my cervix. No. You are cancer free. There is no active cancer in your body. And I just, and then he said to me, because I was crying, he said, you happy, right? And I'm like, yeah, ecstatic, really. And that's when I really realized how incredibly powerful meditation is and surrendering is, because the meditation and the surrendering practice had raised my vibration so much to the level of my inner healer, the inner healer that we have, which is the same healer that, heals your skin if you happen to cut yourself. That inner healer is a pretty high vibration. And so I matched that vibration and was able to heal my body from the inside out. And if that wasn't an amazing, benefit, there was so much more to it. And that's the fact that I am in such a beautiful state of being as a result of this surrendering practice. I feel so much peace and love, that tenderness. I still feel that for myself. I tell myself I love you all the time. Before I go to sleep, when I wake up in the morning, in meditation, I tell myself all the time, I love you. And I've realized how important self-love really is. And, amidst all this COVID-19 in the world, there is so much fear and desperation in the world right now. And I'm able to feel the compassion for people, absolutely. And I'm able to stay in a place of peace and calm and love and keep myself at that high vibration. And that is the real gift. A healthy body is a great bonus. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very grateful to be cancer-free. But it is this state of being, this blissful state of being, that is the real gift. Because that is the truth of who I am. And so what Brandon did in India is that when we all showed up, we all were given a blank name tag. And she said, okay, she said, I want you to meditate. And if a name comes up in meditation, that is going to be your name while you're here at your retreat, at this retreat. If a name does not come up, I will pass around a sheet with all these beautiful Sanskrit names, and you can pick one that feels right to you. And these Sanskrit names were beautiful, and I loved them, and I wanted a Sanskrit name. But I go into meditation, and the name that comes to me is Grace. And at the time, I'm like, really? Grace? That's kind of a common name. And, I know several people who are named Grace, and I want a Sanskrit name. And my inner voice is like, you're Grace. And then I thought, oh my goodness, Grace, as in Grace. I can't be Grace, right? So then I started to play small, like I'm not Grace. And then someone said to me, this name is, you're given this name so that you can aspire to be Grace. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was Grace for that retreat, that whole entire retreat. Everybody called me Grace. And when I had that beautiful, beautiful moment of being in that beautiful, blissful state, I realized that's the grace within me. That is grace. And so Jaika is the name of my personality, the name of my human form. Grace is the truth of who I am. And so what happened is that I let go of the Jaika identity. And halfway through the retreat, I remember I was floundering. I was scrambling because I didn't know who I was anymore. And I was just like, you know, like I was in quicksand. And by the end of the retreat, I was like, wow, I don't know who I am anymore. And I love it. It's a beautiful thing. I let go of Jaika because the Jaika identity was also the cancer causing identity. Whereas the grace within me is this beautiful, blissful, loving, peaceful, compassionate being that we all have. You know, there's the grace within you and within every single person on this earth. Yeah.
All right. I have a question. You know, there's so much that I just have to let it sink in. You know, because it's beautiful, and I can see so much of use for this in my own life. And I've not been diagnosed with anything. I feel kind of, you know, healthy, but there's, you know, issues in my life. Like everybody has certain issues, and I can definitely see this, you know, the surrendering technique to actually helping in all areas of my life. It's not just about health. It's basically about life itself, you know, because I can not understand, but what you were describing, this state of being where you actually don't really care if you have a cancer or don't, because at that moment you
realize that cancer doesn't define you.
Yeah, it doesn't define
you. Grace didn't have cancer. Jaika had cancer, right? And now I'm Jaika to the world, and grace shines through. Yeah. And in the book, I talk about I had an eating disorder because my parents were very critical of people who were overweight. And so in my head, at a very young age, I decided if you gain weight, you're not lovable. And so I struggled with an eating disorder for decades. So I speak about that and write about that in the book. I had lots of money issues in regards to having the poverty complex, right? So it's not that we were poor. We've been middle class our whole life. And yet I had this poverty complex and so many limiting beliefs and stress around money. And of course, my body image. I was a workaholic. And that was based on the fact that I thought I had to prove myself to the world. And so I worked 3 jobs for many years. So the cancer was my wake-up call. And it was a symptom of how I lived my life. And it affected relationships. It affected my work. It affected, my sexuality. It affected everything. Absolutely everything. Cancer was the symptom. So for someone else, it could be obesity. It could be heart disease. It could be, multiple sclerosis, or it could be whatever. It's just a symptom. Yes.
In the book, you described that your father, it's a great teacher of you, and it was pretty hard with him. And you actually described as well what probably caused him being the way he was. That he was actually bullied in the school, and then the moment when he realized his strength, his physical strength, that he actually punished everyone who's ever bullied him, and that was. That actually made him quite easily triggered by anything, and you've described it, that was one of the reasons why you became the pleaser, why you became,
yes, because he intimidated me. He never physically beat us. He was all about overpowering with words and intimidation and bullying. Yes, and so he was raised by a father who was abused, and by a mother his father was the abuser, his mother was abused, and my father was, although if you'd asked him, he would have said I wasn't abused, But the stories I've heard, yeah, in today's, but he was born in 1939, and back then things were a little different. But my grandfather did not know how to love. And that was because he was raised in a family where there was no love, right? So it's all generational and environmental. And so when my father, after being bullied at school for years and being raised by, in a household where there was abuse, he was then told by his father, start standing up for yourself at school, protect yourself, punch them out if you have to. And so he did. And the first time he punched someone out, he felt such strength and power. And he was just like, whoa, And so he was no longer the victim. And then he went to every single kid that had ever bullied him and punched them. And he was strong. He was a farm kid. And this was all in elementary school. But it got to a point where he was no longer allowed to be on the playground. And so he, in his adult years, he thankfully did not resort to physical, punching, but he punched through words and he punched in other ways. I often said that, he was meant to be a lawyer because he was tenacious and he was, and narcissistic. Yeah. So as a result, I am not a bully, and I bent over backwards to not rock the boat, because my father, when he was happy, he was the life of the party. He was fun. He was a musician. He was chatty. He would laugh. He was, a fun guy. But if you crossed him, then the bully came out, and that was scary and intimidating. And so I did everything in my power to keep the fun, happy guy, in our family. And so I feel that my brothers and my mom were doing the same thing. We were all kind of just people pleasing to keep him happy. Yeah.
And do you think this could be the reason why your mom actually had the breast cancer as well?
Well, it's hard to say because, back then she didn't really do that kind of inner work, at least not in our, experience in our family. And so it's hard to say. She also, I do recognize quite a bit of my behavior and how I mimicked my mother. And she loved my father, and my father loved her. And so their relationship was very different from my relationship with him. And at the same time, my mother did so much for my father. So I do wonder how much she held back as a result also of not rocking the boat. Yeah.
And you've also written in the book that one of your limiting beliefs was that when your mother had breast cancer, you should have it too.
Yes. Well, of course, people were telling me, all right, well, it's in the genes. You better get yourself tested, have mammograms every year. And so, yes, they were all well-meaning people. And that instilled this belief, this fear that I'm prone to getting cancer. So that just added to it, right? And then I was also told by, I was 8 years old when my mother first had cancer, and I didn't really understand what cancer was. And then there was this guy in the village, and he stopped me as I was biking home from school to ask how my mom was doing. And I'm like, oh, she's fine, And then he proceeded to tell me that, well, people die from cancer. And to this day, I don't know why he felt the need to tell me. And I don't even really remember biking home. I was told about this afterwards, but it devastated me because up until that point, I didn't understand the seriousness of cancer. And so I believe that was a pivotal point too, that, cancer apparently kills. So from the age of about 20 or 21, I started having mammograms. And now they don't recommend this at all now to start that young. But, in the 1980s, that's what we did. Every year I had a mammogram. Every year I put radiation on my breast to see if, right? And that's how eventually it was found in 2007. Yeah.
Jacob, what if someone has a cancer as serious as you had, and would like to use what you've found out, what you've done to get rid of it, because your journey it's taken years, and it just sounds that you have to do so much to actually get to that point where you can heal yourself. Do you,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that anyone, interesting question, do you think that anyone can heal from the cancer, and do you think that anyone should? Because there is
Absolutely. Well, there's the word should, in my opinion, ditch that word, because should has an energy of I don't want to do this, but I should do it, right?
no,
Does
no,
everybody have the ability to? Absolutely.
no.
Yes, we do.
Sorry, what I meant, just to explain myself.
Okay.
Well, we all have the stories to live here. We've come to Earth to live certain story, and many people are supposed to die of cancer without being able to even see the possibility to heal themselves. So that's what I meant. Not if you should heal, but you have to get to a certain state of mind to be able to even think of it. Even surrendering and meditation and all this stuff. Journey. You've done quite a lot. To get there. Really, that anyone can do that.
Anyone, absolutely anyone, has the ability to surrender. And you're right. Some people have it in their blueprint, so to speak, right? As a soul, you decide, okay, I'm going to come into this life and I'm going to experience cancer, in my case, cancer, and purely for the sake of experiencing it. And that was my blueprint, so to speak. And I healed. And so I went actually beyond the blueprint of my life, if that makes sense. I had a session, several sessions with a channeler. And I was told through this channeling session that, yes, in fact, you had a blueprint where there were two stages in life, your childhood and youth, and then your childbearing years. And that was it. That was the blueprint. And they told me, if you surrender to love, you have an opportunity to add stage 3, to go beyond the blueprint and start and be in stage 3 of your life. And I was aware of this before I healed my body. I was told about this, that I had the power to be able to go beyond the blueprint. So I believe if I have that power, then anybody does. Anybody does. But again, anyone can surrender. Anyone can tap into the bliss and reconnect with the essence of who we are. And then at that point, you have lost the desperate need to heal your body from whatever you feel that because you no longer, you realize that's not who you are. And so then you're at peace with it. You're at peace with it. And so if I have cancer next week, then I'll be at peace with it, because I don't define myself by that anymore. Yeah. I don't believe I'm going to end up with cancer in the near future, right? But
quite unlikely now. All right.
Yes. Well, and so just to continue on about the channeler that I have had numerous sessions with, they also said to me, as long as you stay surrendered to love, you will maintain a cancer-free body. The minute you stop, the cancer will come back. And so this surrendering practice for me is a lifetime commitment. I surrender every single day. Every single day. I still have thoughts and emotions that arise where I'm like, okay, what's that? And if you'd like, I can just kind of explain my surrender practice a little bit and how I...
Could you guide me through it? Let's do it here.
Oh, guide you. Okay, so tell me what are you feeling? What are some limiting belief that you have that you would like to work on?
Ooh, limiting beliefs is my big topic. Always on the two intensive journeys seminars I've been here in Prague with Brandon. On both of them, the strongest emotions and the deepest emotions I've always had during this exercise when we're going into our limiting beliefs. So, well, there's many of them.
Okay, well, let's pick one.
Well, the main one is obviously I'm not good enough, for anything. That I'm not smart enough. I'm not. Well, basically, I'm just not good enough to do anything. Basically.
Okay, so can we pinpoint that to one kind of, because it's very broad right now. So we want to just kind of hone in a little bit.
Okay.
Why do you know? So let me ask you this, because you had said I would love to do more journey retreats. What has stopped you? Is it money?
Yes.
All right. Let's start there.
Money is my big topic, and I found out that no matter on how much I actually make, because I've gone through the periods of my life when I earned loads of money, I still didn't have this abundance mindset in my mind. And even if I made lots of money, I was still thinking, well, I don't have enough. It's not enough. And
I can totally relate. It's the poverty complex is what that's called.
Poverty complex. Okay.
Yeah. So regardless of how much money you have in the bank, at a subconscious level, that poverty complex is still there. So, okay. So go ahead and close your eyes.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Do you want to go into a specific one, or should we do something which anyone, actually sit and watching us?
Well, it's good as an example. It will give people kind of an idea of how I've done it, my way of doing it. Okay. So closing your eyes, when you think of the thought that you can't afford to go on a retreat, let's say a retreat in India, a journey retreat. So this is going to be thousands of euros to go to India. And you think about the fact that you can't afford it, what emotions are coming up?
I feel kind of desperation,
desperation. Okay. Anything else?
I feel sad that I can't go there.
Right. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to allow yourself to feel this desperateness. And the desperateness is a fear-based emotion. So allow yourself to feel, and then be the watcher of that desperation. Be the witness. And just allow yourself to feel it. Don't resist it. Because this desperate energy is stuck in your body. It's the darkness in your body. And as a witness, the witness of who you are is actually your consciousness. It's the grace within you. And that grace is saying right now, and you can repeat after me, it's okay that I feel desperate. It's
okay that I feel desperate.
It's okay. I'm allowed to feel this desperation.
I'm allowed to feel the desperation.
Okay. And you keep saying that. It's okay. It's okay. Keep shining the light on that darkness. It's okay that I feel this.
It's okay. It's okay that I feel this.
Okay. And then tell yourself, I love you. I love you. It's okay. I'm allowed to feel this. I'm allowed to feel this. And keep feeling it. Keep feeling it. And this could take minutes. It could take hours. But you keep shining the light.
Actually, I felt it very strong just once. I allowed myself to feel the emotion. I felt it in my head. I started crying. You might not be able to see that, but the moment when I just allowed to feel the emotion, I felt that some kind of resistance actually has fallen. It actually
and so when you
this emotion, it's just really, it's a tiny thing. It's nothing huge, but it's until I realized it, until I was able to feel it.
Right. Because if you feel resistance coming up, then you say, it's okay that I feel this resistance. Embrace the resistance to it as well. It's okay. It's okay. And so what's happening is, if you look, this is This is the vibration of the desperation. If you want to open your eyes for a second, just for the sake, we would continue this on, but it could take an hour, and I don't know if your viewers want to watch that. But what's happening is this here, the bottom is your vibration of desperation. And let's say that's the dark, right? The darkness. Your consciousness, the grace within you, is this vibration. It's the vibration of your higher consciousness, and it's the light. And so you are telling the desperate energy, it's okay. You're allowed to feel this. It's okay. You're shining the light on it. And as we know, the darkness cannot survive in the light. And so you're literally just beckoning and saying, it's okay. It's okay. You go ahead and feel that desperation. And as you're doing this and you're feeling the compassion and the allowance and the peace and the love, and you keep dousing the desperate energy with all of those high vibrations, what's happening is eventually you're beckoning it, and then eventually you're 100% okay with this desperate energy. And when you're 100% okay, well, it's gone. It's dissipated. And then you are in this state of kind of like, your body will start to relax. And you're like, wow, okay, you just feel at ease. And then I take it to the next step. And that is, I visualize. So in your case, I would suggest visualizing yourself at a journey retreat, an advanced journey retreat. And so wherever that may be, let's say it's in India. So you're visualizing yourself standing at Mount Arunachala in India, right? You're there. Can you see it? Can you see the visual?
Well, I have no idea what it actually looks like there, so it's hard.
Okay, it's like a pyramid type mountain with lots of trees. So visualizing that, and then if you were in India at this advanced retreat, what emotions would go through you? How would you feel?
I would feel powerful, excited.
Powerful, excited, beautiful. So go ahead and feel that. Feel those emotions.
I would feel achievement, like the satisfaction with my own life, like if I've actually done something,
okay,
like the feeling of a huge achievement.
Right. And so all of the emotions, the freedom, the excitement, possibly gratitude and love, allow yourself to feel that. And so you'd still be in meditation. You have just finished surrendering this limiting belief of money and that you don't have enough money to go on this retreat. And now you're visualizing yourself at the retreat. And then you are allowing yourself to feel these emotions as if it has already happened. This is an important component because when you feel the emotions, we live in an electromagnetic field. And so the visualizing is the electro part. It puts it out there in the universe. The emotions is the magnetic part. It's the law of attraction. So the emotions is what actually will draw it to you. And so you are in a heightened vibration once you've surrendered. You visualize and you feel all those emotions as if it's already happened, that you're already in India at this retreat, and you bask for as long as it takes. You bask in it, right? And that means your vibration is at that heightened state for however long you let it be. And you do this over and over and over again in meditation. And eventually you start to feel this even when you're not meditating. And so my visualizing was where I love hiking. I was in Asia, of course, as I mentioned, and I had run into quite a few tourists who had gone and hiked to the base camp in Nepal, and the pictures were absolutely phenomenal. And at that point, I was exhausted. I barely had enough energy to walk half a kilometer, let alone do this amazing hike. And so my visual was I was hiking to base camp, and I was surrounded by the beauty, and I was feeling the freedom, the excitement, and the energy and the gratitude. And I was feeling that, and I would bask in these feelings, these emotions, sometimes for an hour or more. My meditations were lasting 3 hours every day, sometimes as long as 5 hours. I would have a couple of meditations a day. And because I realized that after the surrendering, the latter part of basking in those high vibrations, that's when my body was healing. That's when I was really teaching my body to vibrate at a higher level. And then my wish that I put out there, my intention was, I want to feel this when I'm not in meditation, right? Because I would feel amazing in meditation, and then I would get out of meditation, go about my day, and, not feel as good until the next meditation. And that's what happened in India when that wish came true. And that intention came true, where I started to feel that beautiful high vibration when I was not in meditation. And so now it's there. It's not there 100% of the time, and that's okay too. I've surrendered that need as well, right? Because the thing is when you have these blissful moments, you can get attached to them, and then you want them more and more and more, and then there's desperation attached to that. And so I've let go of the need to be in a state of bliss. And I'm okay with whatever I feel. I'm in allowance.
Can we get back to the emotion, which you this limiting belief? So how do you actually work with it before you visualize that feeling of when you actually get there? What do you do with the emotion which you have?
So you bask yourself. Yeah. So where your thoughts are, your energy is. So put your thoughts in your heart and imagine your heart opening up. And your heart is filled with compassion and love and peace. Okay? And tenderness and gentleness. And so imagine your heart. I always imagine big doors, barn doors in front of my heart opening up, and all of this liquid love is just spreading through my body. And then I allow it to go beyond the physical part of my body into my aura. And then I imagine my energy expanding out, this beautiful, loving energy. And if you're having a difficult time tapping into the love, visualize something that instantly brings the love up. So if you have children, think about your children. Right? When you think of your children, your heart opens up. And so you connect with that.
No, I don't think I will have a problem with this part, but I wanted to get back to the negative emotion, to the what I was actually feeling, and you kept saying, it's okay, it's okay.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So the desperation that you were feeling, right? Once you're 100% okay with that desperation, then the desperation dissipates. It disappears because you're okay with it. It becomes a non-issue. And when it's a non-issue, that which you were desperate about, and you could test that. Now, we didn't continue to do the whole thing purely because, we're on a live video here. But if you were to, if let's say we'd spend an hour on this and you actually felt it release, and you would feel that through the relaxing of your body. And so for me, a lot of the tension was held in my throat and in my chest, and I'd feel like there was 1,000 pounds on my shoulders. And at the end of a surrender practice, it was like the weight of the world was taken off my shoulders, and I could breathe again. And that's when I knew, okay. And I could feel my energy lightening up. I could feel this joy and this love coming up. And so then you could test it. Okay. And so then you could ask yourself, okay, if I never did a journey retreat, an advanced journey retreat, how do I feel? And if the desperation is gone and your judgments around it are gone and you're at peace with it, that's when you know you've truly surrendered it. And that's from that place. Because the thing is when you are vibrating at a low vibration, you are vibrating from the ego perspective. The ego reacts. Okay, it's reaction. So it reacts out of fear, it reacts out of anger, out of whatever. When you're okay, when you're 100% okay with something and you've dissipated whatever you were working on, you're now in a place of peace, inner peace and love. And from that place, your action, it is not reaction, it's action, and it comes from a place of peace. And so you can call that inspired action. And inspired action is a beautiful thing. There is so much power there. There's so much strength there. And along with that, I would like to also really tell you how important it is to start to trust your intuition. Because meditation puts you in the present moment. And when you finally have surrendered, that vibration, it's there in the present moment. The minute you are in the future, the minute you're in the past, often there's a lot of anger about this happened and that happened. The future, often there's a lot of fear of the unknown. When you're in the present moment, that's where the bliss is. So if you're starting to feel this, whatever you're feeling, the anger, that's your indication you're not in the present moment. And so take yourself, become very present, become the witness of the emotion, shine the light on it, bring it up, bring the vibration up. And in that present moment is also where your intuition, right? So you start to intuitively act. And I write about this in my book quite a bit. My higher self speaks to me in meditation, also out of meditation, and has actually pushed me way out of my comfort zone. Because that's the thing. We are comfortable the way we are because it's the way we've been for our entire life, right? The programming. And so as you are starting to surrender, you're actually pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And so be prepared to be uncomfortable. And one of the examples that I used was I had promised myself, if I get a message by my higher self, if my intuition speaks up and says, you need to do this, I am going to do it regardless. No matter what, I'm going to do it. And I'm no longer going to question it. I'm going to trust my intuition, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And so I was going to Europe and I was doing a journey retreat in England and also one in the Netherlands. My husband was not coming with me. He stayed in Canada. So I was in Europe for 10 weeks. While I was in England, I didn't know anybody in England. I was like, okay, I'm going to spend about 2 weeks there. So I need to figure out where I'm going to go. I need to book hotels and, figure out transportation, all of that. And in meditation, all I got was don't plan anything. Just go and trust that everything's going to fall into place. I'm an events organizer. That was my job for 14 years. Mm-hmm. And I got so uncomfortable because I thought, I've never been to England. I have no idea. Where am I going to go? I have this retreat for a weekend. Then I have another week and a half. And I'm not supposed to plan anything. Don't plan anything. So as uncomfortable as it was, I went to England without plans. And at the retreat, we were at an evening event. And when the activities were over, my inner voice said, ask for the mic. So there were about 50 people or so at this retreat, all of whom I'd only just met. Some of them I hadn't even met yet. So I was basically filled with a room of people that I didn't know. And my inner voice said, ask for the mic, stand up in front of them. And I did. And my heart was pounding and I was uncomfortable, but I did it. And so I grabbed the mic and I said, hi, I'm Jaka. And I'm here for another week and a half. If anybody wants to go on an adventure with me, show me your country, let me know. I have no plans. And as soon as those words were out of my mouth, someone's hand went up. Daniel. You remember Daniel? And he said, you should come with us. We live in a beautiful little town on the coast, and we'll show you around for a couple of days. And I remember thinking, wow, that was easy. That was quick, right? Just like that. The first 2 days are booked. And I just felt this, okay, maybe it's going to be okay. The next day, I ran into a beautiful woman in the bathroom who I hadn't met yet. And she came up and she goes, hey, I'm Raj. Have you figured things out yet beyond staying with Daniel? And I said, no. And she says, well, I own a little flat in Wimbledon and I'm not going to be there. I'll give you the code. You can stay there as long as you like. So I stayed in Wimbledon for a week. And then I had 2 other beautiful, beautiful women who came up to me and said, I would love to be your tour guide. And so I got toured around London by locals. And then the one gal, Lindsay, said, I live in Brighton And Brighton is a beautiful place. Come to Brighton. I'll show you around Brighton. I had a fantastic time. I probably saved thousands of dollars because England is very expensive. And I thought, wow, there is no way I couldn't have planned it better. And because I trusted my intuition, that's what happened. It's a beautiful thing. And the book that I wrote, I talk about secrets. And I was so uncomfortable. Secrets are secrets because there's shame attached. There's guilt attached. There's regret attached. And so I had surrendered all of that. And then my inner voice says, write about it. And I'm like, no, that's not necessary. Nobody needs to know. I've surrendered it. I'm good. Write about it is what came through. So I wrote about it. And it's uncomfortable. And it was uncomfortable. But the amount of people that have contacted me since I wrote the book, who have thanked me, who have told me I have so much in common. I've had so many aha moments. Thank you for your courage of writing the book, because it takes courage to go against your programmed behavior, to rise above it, and to trust your intuition. It takes courage. And we're all worth it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, when we're in our comfort zone, there isn't much growth there. When we step outside of our comfort zone, that's where growth resides. That's where we grow. That's where we evolve. So I live in a perpetual state of surrender and slight discomfort. I do. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Yeah.
You're okay. Okay, Jacob, we've planned to do this interview in less than an hour. We are over an hour now.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah, but I expected that. Could you tell us more about the book, where we can buy it, or where is it available?
Yes. So here is my book, Healed by Cancer. And it's available on Amazon, both as paperback or as a, Kindle, and Amazon all around the world. So I know in Europe, it's in Germany, in the UK, Spain, Italy, France, and then of course, Canada, the United States, and I think Mexico, Japan, all over the world. Yes. And so, yes, please check it out. If you are putting it in the search engine, write my name in the search engine, because there are a gazillion books on cancer, but there are only 5 Jacas on Amazon. It's easier to find if you write Jaca Duncan.
Okay, great.
And that's how you'll find it. Yes.
And
yeah.
I thought it would actually cover everything in this interview from what I read from the book, but there's loads of parts of the books which we haven't even touched today. Those might be your secrets, and so I recommend everyone to buy the book, read it, and just read it over and over again, because I think it's helpful to better and happy living life and everything. Jacob, where else can we find you? What do you do?
So I also have a coaching business. And so my website is called innerhealthouterwealthcoaching.com. I write a blog, which you'll find on the website. I am a co-host on a podcast called Two Pals in a Pod, also on my website. I have a YouTube account. All of it you'll find on my website, all the information. So innerhealthouterwealthcoaching.com. Maybe you can write it in attach it here. And yes, I also have a private Facebook group called Surrender, Your Ticket to Freedom. I have posted a few videos explaining more in depth what my surrender practice is. And if anyone is interested in having a session with me, you can go to my website and book a coaching session with me, a one-on-one coaching session through Zoom. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'd love to hear from your listeners and your viewers.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure you will. Jacob, thank you. Thanks very much. It's been great.
Thank you, Stepan. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
I really believe I'll see you one day again, maybe on one of the journey retreats or somewhere else.
Maybe.
If you ever come to Prague, definitely let me know.
I will.
And,
I will, yes.
It's been amazing, and I hope that the right person who finds this, that anyone who actually who could have listened to this, and it might help him a little. Will be grateful that we've done this, and that you've actually shared all your story with us in your book and in this.
Right.
Well,
it's
been very inspiring.
There isn't a human being on earth that doesn't have something to surrender. And COVID-19 is giving us all kinds of opportunity to surrender. Yes, that is the gift that COVID-19 is presenting to us. It has the ability to crack us open and let the light in. Because that's what cancer did for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for watching. And if you actually have any comments, if you'd like to ask Jika something, just write in the comments or contact her on her Facebook profile or page. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.